Now you know. Okay, now that I know what it takes to do, I'm just like, okay,
I won't have to do it ever again.
I don't think I would do it.
And if you knew that going in, you might just resurface the board you have.
You only ever do films once.
Oh, why is it not? Oh, yeah. No, it's just very slow. Oh, sorry, I had to. I'm gonna use another account. No, that's okay.
What we have.
I'm just setting up the YouTube.
Oh, right, okay. Are you gonna stream directly to it? Oh, cool.
If I remember the password.
That's ambitious.
No, it's not. I do it all the time, but
No, I mean that you do even do it all the time is ambitious. I learned to do it once and it's a big ordeal.
oh yeah, no, it is. It's actually like if you book the YouTube, it never goes where you're supposed to go. So I'm just doing it randomly.
Yeah, I did it to do a live online performance, and we were meant to be doing partly to YouTube and using pre-recorded material and focus live and trying to mix them all together and live set that up was such a nightmare.
Oh, come on. Oh, Gina. Yes, it's me.
Everything has 1,000 steps now.
Okay, we're in.
Although, as I had noted before, in a weird way, in some ways, it's helping me with work-life balance because when I don't have my phone beside me and I don't feel like I want to go through the 2,000 steps it takes to actually access some of my stuff, I often decide that I will actually just be at home.
Yeah.
Enjoying my
It's such a hassle, I won't bother.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Sitting on the couch going, "Oh, I can read something on my phone." I don't have my phone beside me.
So, and I'm just gonna take this out. Hi, everybody. We're gonna wait another 3-4 minutes and then we're gonna start. Okay, so in the meantime, just hold on. Yes, we are starting now. Let me just start YouTube. So we're going online. Go live. We should go live very soon. We are also recording, so everything will be all super recorded and super documented. Okay, so you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, good. So welcome to tonight's very exciting event. As you see, I'm here at OCAD and Camille is here with me, together with Cindy and Emma. And so we are very distanced and we will wear masks as soon as we get off the screen, don't worry. But we wanted to do this together. So, so I just wanted to start by acknowledging the sacred land on which I guess, so this is kind of, okay, so this is very, very strange. So this is an account of U of T. So I am technically from U of T, but we are at OCAD. So I guess it's more or less the same. But the University of Toronto and probably OCAD are on the sacred land that has been the very busy activity of indigenous people for over 15,000 years. It has been the territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Petun First Nation, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississauga of the Credit River. And the territory was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Belt Covenant, and which is an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Ojibwe, an allied nation, to peacefully share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. So today, this is a Toronto is the missing. Toronto is the missing meeting place of many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to work in this community and in this territory. So I would like to just very briefly introduce this talk. So this is sort of preview of something that much bigger that will happen in the spring. But Camille is here in Toronto, and so we wanted to do this talk. And there's also some demos that probably she will tell you about. I think there's still some spot available. I'm just going to introduce Enter Her, which is an immersive installation and a VR experience which explores the inner world of women's bodies and the reproductive disease they suffer. The project is coming from personal experience, and I haven't seen it yet, but I hope I can experience it very soon. It was created to open up the conversation about phenomena experienced by women in their late 30s and sometimes earlier, and their 40s, and sometimes after menopause. Working in consultation with a gynecologist, the project features interviews with several women telling their stories. The themes in the work include issues of female identity, sexuality, body image, loss, of body parts, pain, disease, and cancer. I'll let Camille talk about it, but I just wanted to say that in 2021, the installation was shortlisted for the Lumen Prize, which is quite a big deal. And I also wanted to acknowledge the co-presenters, the co-host of this event. So this event was co-hosted by the Outside Salon, which is me. My name is Roberta Bujani. I always forgot to say my name. And the Fields Institute for Research in Mathematical Sciences. And I am also acknowledging OCAD University, which is where we are having the talk today. And the Bodies in Play initiative with Cindy Poremba and Emma. Oh my God, Emma Westercott. All right. Okay, so let me introduce you to Camille. I'm gonna switch over, put my mask on again, and enjoy. And please, can you please turn off all your screen so that I can feature Camille. Let me just do this. I think that you should, otherwise you should pin yourself, but yeah.
Oh, yes, I'll do that. Hello, everyone. I will take off my mask. Hello, everyone. Oh, I'm on mute, aren't I? I'll go. Unmute. It says asked to unmute. Is it unmuted? There we are.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can see me. Thank you, Roberta. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Emma, for hosting me here. And yes, I will begin. And I'll just say, I took this opportunity, the opportunity that I had, which was a ticket that I was not able to use to come to Canada in last year in 2020 for Isaiah. And I thought, wouldn't it be fab to come over here and visit my wonderful friends here and show this work and hopefully be able to show it more formally, I suppose is the word, at a later date. I'm going to also say that I'm going to give you a little preamble about how I got to this place. I usually kind of say, how did I get here? And then not locally, like how am I here physically, but more how did I get to the spot in my life where I'm showing this work. So give me 2 seconds while I find, oh, it's been, there it is. Okay. And I will share the screen. It's always weird using somebody else's computer. And that, not that, this. No, it's not doing what you said. So I'm just going to close that. I'm going to just do what I would normally do, actually. I will just, apologies, everyone. It's always this changeover that's so strange. There we go. So hopefully you can see that and I'll make it full screen. Okay, so I'm actually Canadian. I'm originally from Vancouver, but I'm living for 14 years now in the United Kingdom, and I'm working at the University for the Creative Arts based in Farnham, which is, from any of you who've ever been to the UK, it's sort of southwestish, kind of southwest of Brighton, kind of northwest of Brighton and southwest of London. I'm a professor of interactive and immersive arts in the School of Film, Media and Performing Arts. I'm going to breeze through my sort of historical background just so you get a sense of who this person is in front of you. But I kind of work across different areas, but they're all kind of around emerging technologies. And actually, have known Cindy for a very long time. We did our master's together in Vancouver, and some things I'm going to show early on, even she was a part of. So if you know Cindy Poremba at OCADU, you might be curious about this stuff. But I've had kind of moved from curating in digital contexts to performing. My background is in, let me see if this will move forward. Where is it? There we go. Dance. Various kinds of medium, from curating a gallery to making early 3D work to video art to early animation kind of stuff. Not early as in, 20th century, but definitely early web-based video. I was in bands in Vancouver for a long time. Before I started my master's in Vancouver, I was starting an online community about Gen X relationships and pop culture, and was involved in some
pretty interesting connections between live and online events. I got involved in curating something called the New Forms Festival, which I think is still existing in some form or other, which was around new media and various kinds of performance and very much around electronic music. I think it's over the years become much more about electronic music. And I did my master's in, which started off as University of Interactive Arts and Technology in Vancouver, that soon died and became part of Simon Fraser University, and worked with someone named Tekla Schiffhorst and Susan Kozel, and got really interested in wearable technology and e-textiles. Well, it wasn't e-textiles at that point, but very much embedding technology in fabrics and clothing. And in my master's project, I was really interested in how to stimulate telepathy by making a not too dissimilar kind of immersed environment that was meant to put people into a hypnagogic state and somehow stimulate a receptive state where they could then have telepathic experiences with people in another room. Who knows if the telepathy happened, but it was fun to make. It was interesting to experiment with physiological sensors and triggering different video and sound and light with different parts of body processes, breath, galvanic skin response, and I think heartbeat. After I finished my master's, I started a little organization with my friend Victoria Singh, and Cindy Poremba and Susan Kozel were on the board, and we tried to intersect performance art and media art, and did a lot of different kinds of situated or site-specific kinds of media art experiences. But it lasted a short time because I ran away to the UK and did my PhD, and we all kind of went our own ways. And when I did my PhD, I had this weird idea that was taking the idea of telepathy into a new direction, where I wanted people to be able to think about or simulate as opposed to stimulate telepathic experiences using mobile video. And this was before the iPhone, so it was a bit more tricky than I anticipated, but it was a really interesting experience in exploring, taking body data through, again, breath, heartbeat, and I experimented with muscle electricity and sometimes pulse to take videos that I had collected through multiple workshops with people and getting them to think about what does their body feel like and how could they visualize sending that through the internet or whatever to someone else. And we would do, these sort of mind centering workshops, and then people would use their mobile phones. Again, I said it's pre-iPhone, so I actually had to give them the mobile phones and teach them how to use them. But it was that idea of taking your available information around you and using that as some kind of video fodder. So we made a lot of different videos, and we made our own wearables to try to make that connection between the body and these videos on the internet, and make sort of a VJ experience over the internet. Early days, so it was a bit tricky, but we did something. The other part of the piece was that we would then try to make so the performance was online, but you could be doing it at a party or a social environment. So you'd be performing without anyone even knowing that you were performing. So there's this kind of global VJ experience happening sort of underneath people's noses without them necessarily knowing. So I was experimenting with different ways of engaging people, to make work together and collaborate around different kinds of media forms. This is one of the outcomes of one of the performances. After I finished the PhD, I worked with a longtime collaborator, Kate Sicchio, and we made a lot of work around exploring making DIY costumes and DIY wearable technologies, and playing with different modes of performance and different kinds of interactions, exploring body data as a material process, but also something that can be made more physicalized in different modes of expression, and particularly different kinds of communication between dancers or performers. And we got really excited and interested about how to understand somebody's body data identifier, I suppose you could say, and do people have data personalities, and how could we use that in performative contexts? And then also how we could make sort of bespoke sensing for different kinds of contexts. We also wanted to be part of this sort of hacking, making community. And so we wanted to take that from the sort of techie world into the performance world. So we did a lot of workshops teaching dancers and theater people how to make their own wearable technologies and sort of bespoke, really low tech kinds of interactions. So this is some examples of that. And then I'm going to try to keep moving fast so we can get to the actual piece that we're here for. But I also was interested in experimenting with this sort of fabric to electronics connection. Now this is 4 or 5 years now, or 5 or 6 years now, where we are playing around with soft conductive materials and connecting with smaller and smaller microcontrollers, and to try to find ways to make interactive fabrics and garments that we could use in performance. And so here's an image of a piece that we made that was all about touching shoulders and parts of the arm, that would then make the conductive threads inside the sleeve would then make different configurations of sound. So it was like an interpretive or improvisational musical piece, but it was also, more importantly for us, making connections between the dancers, but also between different actuators on the body. So we had this thing called the tickle molder. It's like a little feather that would tickle when the other performer would touch their sleeve. So one would be actuating the other, if you will. So one would be causing something to happen. We had different permutations of this. It would be the dancer could then cause different interactions on their own body. We had vibration on different parts of the costume, but it would also create a connection with the other dancer. So they would be having this sort of nonverbal communication. And a lot of my work is about nonverbal communication, or different ways of communicating to or from the body. We also hacked other kind of bespoke or off-the-shelf wearable technology. So this is from a garment that we hacked that was actually made in Montreal. It was a sports top to measure heartbeat and breath. And I think it had gyroscopes and things like that in it as well. And we hacked it to enable the dancers to be able to communicate between each other based on their breath and breath and heartbeat, I think, was the main thing. So some of those are the two performances. And then, which is relevant to this little talk, I got ill after this. I was doing a million things, like writing this book with Kate and writing another book pretty much around the same time. And here's some images from that book. This is kind of, this book, by the way, I'll come back to that story in a second, but this book was all about taking stuff I've done for my PhD and bringing it into a much more narrow context around ways in which we use mobile media in the loosest sense, meaning not just mobile phones or iPads, but also things that you wear on your body in different ways. So these images are from different permutations of either VR or some kind of wearable piece that is also mobile. And so the work was all about different ways artists interpret wearable and mobile in performance. And I wanted to show this because I do love some of the amazing things people have been doing over the years, loosely connected to mobile. I also got really interested in what is happening to the way we use our technologies, and particularly not just wearables, but more and more we're moving inside the body. Or because I work on some European projects in the UK, there's been a lot of exploration of like, how can we make injectables and embeddables and all these different things that were encroaching more and more on the body, and what is ways in which we can harvest the body. And so that it has concerned me, and it does feel like the more I get engaged with technology, the more it's problematic in many ways. And I think it's important that we think about where is the technology going. So I have been quite concerned and critical about that. Also, I've been running this thing called e-stitches for a long time now, 2014, so about 6 years, where we get a number of different, mostly artists and textile, I would say scientists really, and interaction designers and engineers and fashion designers all together to show each other how they're making interesting, weird garments and wearable technologies and other things. So that's been running, and it's very interesting. And during the pandemic, it's moved very much online, and now it's like so many people all around the world joining, and we have 6 chapters, and mostly in Europe. But if you want to start one here, I'm happy to encourage that. And we meet every 6 weeks and share work and talk about, where the artistry and the engineering kind of come together, and the different interesting things that people are doing, not only with technology, but things like biological fabrics and technologies and innovations. And I'm just going to skip through all this. I've been involved in curating some different things, so I'm just going to move quite quickly along. One thing I did want to say is I've always done work that's somehow connected to either me performing or enabling other people to perform in some way. And this was a piece that I did with another artist, which was trying to understand the space around Zoom that we're doing right here, and how do we come out of the box, and how do we bring the box together, and what does it mean to touch each other virtually, and all that kind of stuff. Yes. Yes, sorry, they're virtually touching each other in the same room. And just to say, this is a kind of like an honoring. Roberta honored the land we're on. I wanted just to honor the space that I've been occupying, sort of intellectually and artistically, which is there's actually a friend of mine who was a real forerunner of wearable technology and e-textiles, art and performance, which is Valérie Lamontagne, and she died now almost 2 years ago. So I put this virtual exhibition together a couple of years ago, and just wanted to honor this voice who kind of didn't really get a chance to, well, she did get a chance, she reached a lot of people, but I still feel like she didn't get the sort of big celebration that she could have. So I put that on last year. I'm going to move a little bit further. Last year I was involved in a fellowship program with a wearable glove maker engineer who is involved with trying to make a glove that we can use in virtual reality that then gives us that sense of touching something in virtual reality and feeling it back, in particular working with artistic tools like sculpting tools in VR. So you can actually feel the clay or the plastic or the whatever virtual material in that you're working with in virtual reality, you can feel it on the body. So I was involved in this project working with him. So getting right along to the actual reason we're here. In 2016, I mentioned it before, I had an ovarian tumor, and it was very scary, and I didn't initially know that's what it was, but I had something wrong, and I went to the doctor, and I was lucky enough to have someone say, oh, you need to get many scans and find out what this is. And that experience, it started in August, well, it started in June 2016, and then I had a surgery to remove the tumor, which they didn't know was a tumor until they removed it. And then they asked me if I'd like to, well, not asked me if I'd like to, they'd said, oh, you have cancer and you should get the other one removed. And so this was the beginning of the journey that I started on, trying to understand what's happening in the female body and how do I understand my own situation so that I can make the best choices. And what I discovered on that journey was that a lot of women don't have a clue what's going on in their bodies. and often just do what they're told, which is you should just remove everything and get on with it. So for me, that was a very, those kinds of discussions were really, I don't know, I want to say difficult, but it was not just difficult, they were just very confusing. I didn't know where to start. So fast forward about 2 years ago, I thought, okay, after that experience that I had, I felt is important that women and others get a better grasp on what's happening with their bodies, but also have a conversation with each other, because the things that happen in our bodies, we often as women don't talk about, or we're meant to feel that, you know, it's your personal stuff that you keep to yourself, and, you know, you don't talk about it because, you know, it's icky or uncomfortable or whatever. So I decided I wanted to make a project that would open up conversation. And some of this is obscured from my screen. I can't quite see the rest of my screen, but anyway, I don't need to. Basically, I wanted to make an experience where we can go inside of our own bodies virtually and see what's going on, and have sort of listen to the stories of other women. So this is why I decided to make Into Her. And as I mentioned, it was inspired by my own experiences, but also experiences I started to hear from women. When I said, oh, this is happening to me, they started to say, well, this happened to me, or, you know, mention things that went on for them. And one of the first things that struck me was when I was coming out of a second surgery, I decided to go with getting rid of my other ovary. And I'd sat in my hospital bed with two other women on the other side of me who both had quite radical hysterectomies, and asked them why they had them. And one, it was quite obvious she was at advanced stage ovarian cancer, probably wasn't going to live. But this was sort of a last ditch attempt to be able to see if she could. And the other woman had no idea really why she had her hysterectomy, except her doctor told her to. And I was like, I thought that was shocking. How could you just not know what's going on and not know what's coming next? So that was the beginning for me. And also I had conversations, like my cousin had 11 endometriosis surgeries, and she's here from Ontario. She lives in Windsor, and they just didn't, it took like over 15 years of her life. She ended up having to change her whole career plans because she could never, it took her a really long time to finish her bachelor's degree and then her master's degree. And it was because that no one quite figured out what it was or how to get rid of it. And so that really also shocked me. I'm like, how does it take that long and that many surgeries? How is that possible? How is that possible in this time? And so I felt like it was important to start exploring this a little bit more. I also came across a book when I was going through my recovery called Woman in Intimate Geography by Natalie Angier. And I saw it on my shelf. It had been on my shelf for a really long time, but I'd never read it. And so I finally read it, and I thought, why had I not read this book? It's amazing. It tells me everything I need to know about the biology of, you know, a woman at different stages of her life. And so that was really inspirational. Also extremely poetic way of writing, very accessible about things that are happening to women at different stages of their lives, from puberty to pretty much death. Just really accessible, poetic, visual writing. So that was the first step. And also another book that really inspired me in a different way, but in more like an angered me, was Invisible Woman, exposing data bias in a world designed for men, Caroline Corrado-Perez, and just shocking about all the different ways in which the world is not designed for women. And so another really inspirational book. As Roberta mentioned, I won't go through all these because she already mentioned them, but you can see there's a range of things that really made me think that, you know, the emotions you go through when you're trying to figure out what's going on with you, and why, you know, why is it happening to me, and what does it mean, and who am I if I decide to lose these different parts of myself. I was also inspired by other female artists who've explored and been brave enough to do work around the vagina, and what is the, you know, why is the vagina taboo, and all these different kinds of thoughts around the female anatomy. Oh, there's somebody trying to get in. I'm sorry.
You can,
Yeah, I've admitted them. Yeah. There's something also called the Red Tent Movement. It's based in America, but it's spread quite widely, where it's around encouraging young women to meet with older women to talk about, these kinds of female problems and or, menstruation, and, for all the different stages of life, particularly to make these kind of semi-taboo topics a little bit more accessible and acceptable, as well as something that I got introduced to by my stepmother years ago, the Boston Women's Health Collective, who have had a very long, I think it's been around for 40 years now, called Our Bodies Are Cells, which was women teaching other women about women's health. So there's a tradition of us doing this for ourselves, as they say. I started, so some of this is, I'm going to talk about a little bit of the design process of what we went through. I found this amazing interaction designer and artist, Mafje Alvarez in Brighton. And she was making, not only making VR work, but also helping other women to make VR work. And we started talking about how do you think about the body? So let's go and take some pictures inside our mouths and things that are a little bit, maybe less personal to start with, and just kind of, what does the body look like on the inside? Like, how do I see it? Because it's so dark in there. So this is kind of an image from that. And we started sort of looking at body parts and looking at, I got this model of the reproductive system, a medical model, and on the one side it's all these diseases, on the other side it's a healthy model. So I was trying to figure out what should we actually be showing, what should be of value to women who need to know about things going on in the body. Do we want to show disease, or do we want to show some kind of representation of disease? So it was a really interesting process trying to figure out how do we do this. And here's just a quickie kind of prototype we did last year when we were trying to figure out how do we go through inside the body. We developed a prototype in VR chat. If anybody's aware of sort of VR tools, and some of you might be able to see this better than others, it's still playing something there. But it's very, very dark, because this was the idea. We're going inside the body. It's dark in there. You don't have a light I guess doctors do have a light, they have an endoscope, but we was like, what would it be like moving in through the body? So we made something in VR chat to just like explore going in and talking about bits and pieces inside the body. I'll move on from that. And of course, trying to figure out map out what would the experience be like. And then we made this map that's even more kind of the very interaction design kind of map. Like, what do we hear at what point, and what is the journey, and what is the story, and how do we get there, and what do we encounter when we get there? So actually Emma is the only one in the room who's managed to see it so far. So maybe later she can tell you something about it. But I had this brilliant student who got really entranced with tilt brush. So she was doing these amazing things in tilt brush. So I asked her if she would make some of the assets for the project, and she obliged. So this is her storyboard of, but what are these different color schemes of these various diseases? What is ovarian cancer color scheme? How would you draw the sort of thematics and colors of different kinds of parts of the body? So this was the team I assembled when I got a little bit more money last autumn. And they're all brilliant artists in their own right. Yeah. And so initially it was myself and Mafje doing the prototyping from late 2019 to summer 2020. And then it was the various different artists. Bushra Burge is a fashion designer / engineer. Kat Austin is a brilliant sound artist, does a lot of work around environmental sound and climate change related stuff. And then Sarah Butner was my student, who's a brilliant illustrator and does some really interesting animations. So all of them were really great to work with. And what was also really interesting is we all had gone through all of these different kinds of female experiences. So half of it was doing all the technical and artistic work, and half of it was just commiserating about different experiences and trying to figure out how do we communicate that across. I won't go through all this. This was part, I kept it in because I did a talk earlier this week in Birmingham about the design process for this like maker community. And they were like, what did you make? How did you do different parts of the process? So I just threw some of these things in because we were like, okay, well, this is the different stages of the making and all the different things we had to contend with, all the different moments in time where we had to trigger different things and move things around in the space. To build different aspects of the project. And this is an early kind of tilt brush work. What was also interesting in the design process was that we learned that tilt brush objects are huge and really full of polygons. And so if you're going to squish them onto a little Oculus Quest, which is basically just an Android, you have to like remove all the beautiful parts of some of the objects, which was really kind of sad. We were having to it felt like a metaphor of like what happens in the body. We're having to take apart all these bits and pieces to be able to, put it back together onto this Oculus. But nonetheless, we use some of these brilliant objects that Sarah built and tried to make them work in the space. So yeah, these are just some of the different things. And then an early, we have someone coming into the space. We're in a real space, so things happen here. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. This is a little trailer. And what I might do is just double check that I might stop the share and then start it again, because I'd like you to be able to hear the sound on this one. So just bear with me a second while I share that. Yeah, we thought no one was in here, right? Suddenly there's all kinds of people coming in. No, that's not what I want. What do I want? That's what I want to do. Share video clip. Okay, start it again. This was an early kind of logo thing. So again, it's a bit cheesy, I apologize. So hopefully you can hear people coming in. No, that's not what I want. No, this isn't the trailer, sorry. This is our that's what working share. I've got two videos on.
Welcome to the Into Her project. The experience created here.
Okay, I'll stop that. But this was an early kind of just us walking through the process, trying to work out how we're going to do certain things. I apologize, that's the wrong clip. But there is another clip that is the trailer. So you just see us different iterations of the project where we're trying to figure out what things would work and what wouldn't work. So I'll move on. The other piece that I haven't even mentioned is that there's what I'm calling the haptic corset, or it's a vibration belt. And so I'm gesturing and you can't see, but it sits sort of below the belly button, above the pubic bone around here. And there's vibration based on this that you see in front of you. This is what, I don't know if you can still see me in the corner of your window. We originally thought we would have them all around, and that's that image on the left, because we wanted to be able to spread the vibration in the different parts of the body, particularly because endometriosis is a disease that gets inside your abdominal cavity and can do nasty things with your inner bits and bobs. And then on the image on the right was us trying to think about all the different kinds of interactions that we might want to have. And maybe originally we were going to have also sensors and other things in. So these were just sketches that I did to try to, understand what are we going to make here. In practice, I worked with Bushra Burj, as I mentioned, a designer, and we were trying to think about different ways to also visualize what this belt would look like, and how, because every aspect of the project has to sort of integrate together and tell the story as a united kind of piece. And she was looking at all these really interesting things that had sort of coral and mushroom and other kinds of organic qualities, because we were doing the same thing on the inside with the objects, that they'd be flowers, mushrooms, and sort of organic things to represent the different diseases. because they're kind of like that. They're little weird growths inside of us. So we did different versions of this, and you can see some of the things she was playing with. She was taking the imagery that Sarah had made, and then put digital printing on the materials, organza that we're using. And this is the final look of the object of the garment. And yeah. And again, I'm terrible at drawing, so you can see that in this image, but this was a really bad drawing tool as well. So I was just sketching out, well, what's going to be like to actually do this thing? We're going to bring people in, and we're going to then talk to them, and we put the garment on them and sit them in. And in the end, it actually is quite a lot like this diagram, but this is a very early kind of version. And then I worked with an inflatable company this year in the UK, and we worked together to try to design what the actual thing would be. And for me, as somebody has mentioned, I've kind of done it in a staging kind of way. And I think maybe that's my performance background, where it's really important for me to take people through a whole journey, not just put something on a headset. And I do that, leave them, but also just the whole process of briefing and debriefing people in the space, and giving the tent adds a third layer that we don't have with us right now, but hopefully when we bring the project in April, everyone can experience that, because it adds another sort of intimate dimension of the project, where you can go inside the womb again. You know, I don't know how many people fantasize about going back in the womb, but maybe some do. And so it's got that kind of quality. I've had people say, oh, I could stay in here all day, never mind the VR. So that's kind of fun. And so this is kind of what it looks like. And it is very cozy. These are different pictures from different, I mean, they could all be done in the same place, but they're actually from completely different times. This year, I started showing it in June in Folkestone. It's the sort of southeast of the UK. And then I took it to Sheffield, which is kind of up in middle, kind of north. And then it went back down to Brighton, and then we went all the way up to Dundee, me in Scotland, and now I'm here. And hopefully it'll go to Barcelona for ISEA next summer, and it's going to go back to UK and go to Margate, which is another festival. It's also Southeast England again, maybe to Birmingham. And this is what it looks like in different spaces. So one is yoga studio on the left. Another one is recently in Dundee. It was in a shopping mall. And on the far right is in a parking garage in Brighton, which was quite fun. So it's been in lots of different kinds of spaces. Some imagery, both some that, none of these are what we have in the final version, but there were some things that we worked with, and we've kind of had to massage and change a little bit of the final interior. Now here is the trailer.
Welcome to the Into Her project. The experience created here is meant to introduce you to phenomena that is experienced by a great number of women in their late 30s, sometimes earlier, and in their 40s, and sometimes after menopause, even into their 50s and 60s. Every day, and often misdiagnosed or even ignored, and sometimes leading to surgeries or death. The female body and its reproductive system are wondrous, giving life to other humans, and also providing pleasure, and so much more along the way. As Natalie Angier, the author of some of the stories shared here, says in the introduction of her book Woman, the female body deserves a Dionysian respect, a state of body not easily won. For the female body has been abominably regarded over the centuries. It has been made too much of or utterly ignored. It has been conceived as a second sex, the first draft, the faulty sex, the default sex, the consolation prize, the succubus, the male interrupts. We are lewd, prim, bestial, ethereal. We have borne more illegitimate metaphors than we have unwanted embryos. Woman, the bowl, the urn, the cave, the musty jungle. We are the dark mysterium. We are the hidden folds and primal wisdom. As such, This is a journey into the dark mysterium, for a start to understanding the mystery, the unknown experiences, the unnameable sensations, the pain and the misunderstandings, to find a language or a pathway to knowing more about things that happen inside us.
I think it's magical, it's informative, it's really surprising, all these different veils and all these graphic representations. I think the immersion is, it's kind of poetic, it's a soundscape, but it's also, there's a documentary element to it. Yeah, it's a really strong work, really strong work.
Well, I love the tent because it really added to the experience of being immersed. I felt very safe in there. Sometimes I don't feel safe when I go into VR because I think I might knock something over or trip over. And I felt very safe in that environment. I felt very comfortable in the seat. Yeah, I thought it was great.
So the content was actually enlightening. It definitely are topics I'm not used to think about. I had no idea that women are going through this kind of odysseys in their daily life between 30s and 45 or 50s. I like the different voices and the fact that apart from who is not anymore with us, we actually use original voices, I guess.
It was really interesting, really thorough, and I think that it addresses an issue that is not well known, and I think that many more women in different age ranges should be aware of this. And I think that there is some sort of taboo and a stigma within society, so we definitely need to share this. I think it could be a great educational tool, and I would encourage people of all ages, that especially if there are women, but also if there are fathers, brothers or uncles, to watch this and inform their relatives.
Being inside the vagina was very interesting. It was really soothing, really calming. Actually, since we're at the tail end of the pandemic, it's a perfect place to go. The visuals were absolutely stunning. I mean, it's something unexpected. You're going along this visceral journey, navigating intimate stories about people's experiences with their own health when it comes to women's health. But the problem is with women's health, it's navigated mostly by external forces and very little by the women's intuitive experiences. Our stories are not being listened to. So when you get to the end of this particular piece, is that, you know, it is very, very simple. Just listen.
Of course, it felt really supportive, and I felt safe going in, really comfortable, but really, really great stories. Really nice to hear the women's voices and different individuals' stories. Very comforting feeling being inside, and all the visuals, it seemed to match really well, and it just felt really cosy. So coming out, I feel quite kind of like I've been hugged, a bit nourished from the inside. It feels really quite good. Yeah. But it is really like you do feel immersed in it. You feel within, but it's so familiar because being a woman. And hearing the stories and being inside, it really feels really familiar and warm and inviting. I feel quite rested.